Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Wobble Challenge. And if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, a few days ago, President Trump announced that it might be a good idea to move the Palestinians out of Gaza. And to the question of well, where they're going to go to, he said, "Well, they can go to Egypt and to Jordan." This obviously would be a major departure from U.S. foreign policy since the 1967 war, which deemed Israeli occupation of West Bank and Gaza illegal. And then following Oslo, the U.S. committed itself, however feebly, to the two-state solution, a Palestinian state comprising the West Bank and Gaza. So Trump seemed to depart from that consensus and suggested that it can just simply move out more than 2 million Palestinians. The various Arab countries, including Egypt and Jordan, have flatly refused it. But Trump, as usual, wasn't put off by that, and in fact doubled down on it and said, "No, I'm going to definitely go ahead with it." So here's the story. Let me just show you the story from the Times of Israel, which states here that here Trump doubles down on proposal to move Gazans, insists Egypt and Jordan will agree. And it says, U.S. President Donald Trump dug in his heels, on this issue, and then it is on Saturday. Was I? Did I miss one of
Yeah, you
those?
jumped
Yeah,
ahead. It's okay.
yeah, okay. He dug in his heels over a controversial suggestion, large and blah blah. Fresh off what he said were calls with President Sisi and Jordan's King Abdullah. Trump insisted both leaders would take in Palestinians from the war-ravaged territory, and said the issue would be discussed with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when the two meet sometime soon. And then,
George, but isn't it interesting, George, is that, Trump said, yeah, I talked to the King Abdullah, I talked to Sisi, and we're talking about it, okay? We're
that's right.
talking about it, okay?
That's right.
But Mr.
Yes,
President, they're reporting that they flatly disagreed that this is
right.
going to, no, this is a conversation that's
That's
going
right.
to, this
We're
is how
talking.
he's
That's it.
thinking,
We're
okay?
talking exactly. And then it says the U.S. president on Saturday, that's last Saturday, floated the idea to clean out Gaza after more than 15 months of war between Israel and Hamas had reduced the Palestinian territory to what he called a demolition site. Asked about those comments, Trump told reporters on Air Force One he would, quote, like to get them living in an area where they can live without disruption and revolution and violence so much. And then he goes on, when you look at the Gaza Strip, it's been hell for so many years. There have been various civilizations on that strip. It didn't start here. It started thousands of years before, and there's always been violence associated with it. You could get people living in areas that are a lot safer and maybe a lot better and maybe a lot more comfortable. So again, it's very strange. Why are you bringing up thousands of years when this is a very specific
Well, I
conflict?
mean, well, then maybe move the Israelis.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, no, there's very, I mean, and again, the United States, lots of land in America, a lot of rich, fertile land in America. I'm sure, you could easily settle a few million people in America. Um, and both Egypt and Jordan have come out strongly against Trump's idea, saying that Palestinians should be allowed to remain in Gaza and underlining concerns that Palestinians who decamp for safety may never be allowed to return. Members of Israel's far right have called since the start of the war for re-establishing Israeli settlements there and have advocated for the voluntary migration. I like the quotes around
Well,
voluntary
at
migration.
least they use the air quotes there, but what's this decamp?
Yes, yes,
What's going
yeah,
on there? Decamp?
decamp.
Are they campers?
Yeah, that's right, decamp.
Again, everyone, this is what George and I like to do. We like to look how they play with
Right,
language,
that's
okay?
right. Yep, that's
Okay.
right. That's right. who decamp for safety and may never be allowed to return. Members of the Israeli far right have called since the start of the war for re-establishing Israeli settlements, and that's a voluntary migration of Palestinians from the enclave. Trump had been expected to bring up the issue during a call with Sisi Sunday. Asked how the Egyptian leader received the idea, Trump said, well, Sisi's response that he'd like to see peace in the Middle East. Well, that doesn't sound like a positive development. And I don't think Sisi regards moving 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza as a mechanism to bring peace in the Middle East.
Certainly, it's not going to bring peace to
To Egypt.
Egypt.
I don't think so. And then Trump says, I'd like to see peace in the Middle East. Pressed further, Trump insisted that both the Egyptian and Jordanian leaders would come around. I'd love to do that, he said. I
There we
wish
go.
Sisi would take some. We help them a lot, and I'm sure he'd help us. He's a friend of mine. He's in a rough neighborhood, but I think he would do it, and I think the king of Jordan would do it too. And then he goes, and then Jordan's foreign minister said Sunday that his country's opposition to Trump's suggestion was firm and unwavering. Egypt's foreign minister issued a statement saying that the temporary or long-term transfer of Palestinians risks expanding the conflict in the region. And then Trump said that he was open to either temporary or permanent resettlement for the Gaza.
Yeah, so they're told by the Jordanian foreign minister that their decision not to accept people is firm and unwavering. But Trump's attitude is, but that's not a no.
That's not exactly. That's not a no.
That's not exactly a no.
That's right. And then, so that's the situation. Now, I mean, one has to say that not that Trump's idea, presumably, is that he can lean on Egypt and Jordan because they're both dependencies of the United States, and Trump will do what he
He
normally does.
will.
He says, "Hey, we're going to cut you off from U.S. funds if you don't play ball with us."
Exactly, George. This story is far from over. I
Right.
said from the very beginning is that displacement, when the destruction and displacement is this is an opportunity, quote unquote, here, everyone, that the Israelis have been waiting for a very long time. And this has been unofficial policy with the Americans for a very long time as well. This is a insidious opportunity that is not going to be let go. By the way, this is something that they can't believe they're lucky stars. Okay, and again, my take on this is that Trump saw how this tore up sections of American society. It hurt the Democrats. Okay, and Genocide Joe and all of this, I don't think he has a stomach for that. And what he's just saying, look, who would know better? I'm a real estate guy. We need to, it's like eminent domain. Okay, we got to move you out because of eminent domain. There's a place for you to go. The Europeans, because they're saps, they'll pay for it. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with you people? That's how he looks at it.
I do think that that's how he looks at it. I don't think this plan has any real serious prospects for success.
Well, George,
I
the
mean,
prospect.
well, look at it this way. I mean, you're talking about what would be a huge undertaking. You're talking about millions of people. Now, when was the last time you had millions of people being moved? Well, you had them in 1945. Millions of people were moved, but that was in the aftermath of those 6 years of war. By that, everyone was sort of, well, no one really cared any much, and particularly at that stage, no one really cared because the people who were moved were basically Germans. Something like 15 million Germans were just simply picked up and dumped into Germany, and everyone said, "Well, the hell with that. Who cares about the Germans?" It's going to be much harder in the case of the Palestinians, and particularly when we come to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, I mean, the Saudi kingdom, I don't think can survive if it continues friendship with the United States and the United States is encouraging this massive, it's a huge ethnic cleansing.
The The problem is the reason why it is feasible. I note everything you just said, and I agree. But stay and die, and starve and die, or leave, because this, looking at the images of Gaza, it is uninhabitable. I mean, I'm very tired. Did Hamas, did Israel defeat Hamas? Did Hamas win? I'm not part of that conversation. Gaza is destroyed. That was the intention. The intention to destroy Hamas. Well, in the process of destroying Gaza, if we destroyed Hamas, good thing.
Mhm.
But the good thing that the Israelis wanted, their goal was to destroy Gaza to make it uninhabitable, where the option of leaving will be something that is considered. And I think that's still very much in the cards. As I said to you and Mark earlier today, why can't there just be regime change in Egypt and in Jordan? I mean, I think it's conceivable. These people aren't going to play ball with us. This is a finally resolving this issue, and they're an obstacle. Who are they to be an obstacle? They're our vassals. I think there's still very much more to play out. And plus, everyone, because so much focus goes on into the new administration, the horrific violence in the West Bank is only accelerating. Okay. This is exactly what Netanyahu is going to talk about with Trump on the 4th of this, on Tuesday of this upcoming week. That's what they're going to talk about. So, Donald, you've been talking about this plan. Tell me more.
Right. Um, well, I mean, I still think there's just simply, if you say regime change, okay, you can try to remove Sisi. Whoever comes instead of Sisi will have the same attitude. I mean, this has been a consistent theme of every Egyptian leader, from
Well, George, who's going to
Anwar
win?
Sadat, Mubarak, the guy who was the Islamist guy, Morsi, and then Sisi. None of them could possibly say yes to something that would just cause complete upheaval, a total devastation
I
of Egypt. They cannot do it.
you're right, George. You're right. But that doesn't, do you think that's going to deter these people? Look, we started out when Trump started saying about Greenland and Panama and Canada, a little chuckle from everybody. Okay, well, that's ambitious. But George, if he wants Greenland, he's going to get it. If
But
he wants Panama, he's
he's going
going
to
to
get it.
get
But those
it.
are
In Canada, I don't know. That's a pretty
yeah, no,
big one.
those I think Panama and Greenland, those are relatively easy to attain. I mean, there's only about 50,000 inhabitants in Greenland. They can easily be bought out.
And they're not Danish, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. In the Panama again, it's not exactly a formidable military force. They removed Noriega pretty easily in 1989, so that it's not going to be that deal. This is a huge deal. This will be a huge, nothing like, as I said, nothing like this would have been done since 1945. Um, and no one in the Arab world, none of America's, friends or whatever, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, anyone, not one of them would support anything like this. Now, Israel is one thing. Yeah, okay, all these Smotrich and other things. Yeah, they see this as a project. They would have to get the Americans on board, and I find it very difficult to believe, Trump or would sign on to something like this. Why would he do that? Why? Again, this is what I think I was saying earlier: is that Trump has no. If he had some ideological commitment to Zionism, that would be one thing. Oh yeah, yeah, because I really believe in this, the Bible and whatever. But he doesn't. He's a very pragmatic sort of person.
Yeah,
He's much,
but
what's doable and what isn't doable. So I don't
that's,
see why he would sign on to something that is so horrific, basically. Yeah.
no, but I think he thinks it is being pragmatic. He sees this as a potential big win, big win. That's how he thinks. You're right. He doesn't have an ideological commitment. I don't think he has an emotional commitment. I don't think he has any commitment to this. How is it going to, can I get a win out of this, Marco? Well, let's do it. Okay.
Right. But it's not going to be a
Irrespective
win.
of the
People will be,
horrific.
yeah, people will be showing footage footage of women and children being driven out. This will be day in, day out. This is a long. This was going to take a long time. Millions of people. That's a long time. That's not going to be a win for him. That's going to be an absolute calamity for him, and very quickly. And again, he has a limited window. His presidency will be over. Really, in just a matter of months, his presidency would be over because it would cause so much outrage, and there was so much hatred directed towards him. Well, whatever goodwill he enjoys now will completely go. And why? Again, if we try to figure out what does he care about, and we're going to talk in a later video about his tariff campaigns. He cares about a few things. There are the things that he feels passionately about. Israel and the Middle East are just not one of them. They're not. He doesn't care that much about it.
You're still making my argument. He said this is the solution. Why hasn't anybody thought about this before? Let's just
right. But it's
let's
not.
go.
Except that it's not a solution. I mean, if it could be done, yes, it would have been done. But
I think it's the optics. You're absolutely right, George. Seeing a trail of old people, women, and children, as far as the eye can see, from the entire length and breadth of the Gaza Strip. But if you don't see it, then what are you going to be outraged about? Americans won't see it. Okay, look, Pam Bondi and her outfit. They're going to start cracking down. I think they're all interconnected. All interconnected. Okay.
Well, yeah. Again,
all the podcasts that we've mentioned in the past. We'll get rid of them too. Get rid of them.
I think it's going to be quite difficult because first of all, if Sisi doesn't agree to it, that means essentially you're going to be waging a war against Egypt. Israel would be waging a war against Egypt, and then America would have to then come in on Israel's side against Egypt. So that would be a big deal. Now, the idea, if he says, well, okay, I'm going to cut you off with this 3-4 billion or whatever Egypt gets, maybe it's more. I don't know whether Sisi would persuade Sisi, because the Saudis could probably step in and say, and try to make up whatever money Sisi loses through the Americans. But ultimately, if you are going to just drive them into the Sinai, it means, and Egypt doesn't agree to it, then it does mean a war with Egypt. That's a serious business. I mean, there hasn't been a war with Egypt since 1973.
All through this podcast, you're not going to get an argument from me, George. I'm just saying these people, as wrong-headed and as dangerous and immoral and all the rest of it is, it doesn't mean it's going to completely deter them. Look what he said. Oh yeah, they'll take them. They will take them. I had it this morning. It was, he said it like 5 times in one paragraph. They will do it. They will do it. Okay. And like I said, oh yeah, I talked to them, unwavering against this. That means we're still talking. Okay. But as far as the longevity of his second term, as far as wins, you're absolutely right. This is absolutely catastrophic. But look at the people around him. And they'll say, Mr. President, yeah, it'll be tough in the beginning, but it'll be finally over. Finally will be over. And you will be the one that did it. Which, of course, yes, he will be the one that did it. Okay. And we'll go down in history for it. So
well, I mean,
I agree with every single argument George is making here, but I don't think it's enough to stop them, at least from continuing to think about it.
I think, yeah, and I agree. I mean, they've got to think about it, but again, Trump is very pragmatic. We're talking about final solutions here.
And yeah, I try to avoid that phrase.
Okay. I know, but in a way, it would be a kind of final solution here. And for Trump to go down that path, somebody who, in the past, again, has kind of backed away from anything like that. Has been, tended to be quite cautious. He, in the past, he had been pushed into armed confrontations with Iran. He backed away from that. This would be a very big deal. Sisi is not going to stay friends with you for very long if you're going to try to pull a number like that. So I tend to think, yes, this is what the Israelis may well be thinking. Netanyahu may well bring this up in their conversation, and no doubt Mike Huckabee, will say, yeah, fantastic idea. Sebastian Gorka. Yeah, yeah, wonderful, fantastic.
There
Um,
is no,
but they
Mike,
don't. They're not the ones who are calling the shots.
Mike, how could we say there is no Gaza? There
There
is
is no
no,
Gaza. There's no such
there
thing as
is
a
no West Bank.
Palestine.
Okay.
Exactly. No
All right,
such thing.
here, I have a proposition for you. Is this a trial balloon? Is this Trump saying, because he saw what happened to Biden, the 2,000 pound bombs, all, bombing tents, the more children have died in this conflict than any other conflict in this century. We could go on and on with the numbers. It'll take 15 years to clear the rubble, et cetera, et cetera. So is it part of Trump's calculus? Is it, well, we offered to let you leave. We gave you a chance. And your answer is no. And Israel's security is paramount. Continue the genocide. Is that a possibility? I mean,
Um,
you can use those words, obviously.
yeah, I mean, it's possible. You know, Trump just likes to talk off the top of his head. Um, um, I don't know. I find it very difficult to believe that he's going to go down. And even in Israel, you know, that view of just simply driving out all the Palestinians, that's still a minority position. You know, even within Israeli society, you know, they went along with what Netanyahu did in Gaza. Oh, it's all against Hamas. We're just waging a war against Hamas. If you're going to go and start driving out the Palestinians from Gaza, that's a serious business. That's
Well, they did
major war crime there. You know,
they did it
you're talking about a very serious escalation in every way of what Israel represents, because now Israel really will be, hey, this is Nazi Germany stuff now. I mean, and no Israeli is going to be able to avoid the taint of that.
once you have that stench on you, what's going to stop you from going to the next level? Seriously. Anyway, the Nakba was committed, okay, without the internet. But there was a displacement of 3/4 of a million people. It's not like Israel doesn't know what this is all about,
True.
okay?
That was
And,
again.
and, and, and
That was
again, and again,
was it now 75 years ago? So that's yeah. I
what
mean that was
was what was Golda Meir's? You're better with quotes than I am. What did she say about?
what did she say? Something about the no such the Palestinians. There's no such thing as a Palestinian.
No, I just said, I'll never forgive you for me killing your children.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. We Israelis, yeah, we will never forgive the Palestinians for making us do this to them, or something along those lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, what's, again, kind of zooming out, Trump has kind of put himself into a real pickle here. I mean, this is, he seems very determined. We're going to talk about his favorite foreign policy gambit, and that's sanctions, tariffs, and taxes, and all the rest of it. But this is big picture stuff. This is really
It's
big.
big picture stuff.
And then plus everyone with this quasi fake imitation ceasefire. Eventually, the Israelis will be returned, or the people that are being held in Gaza will be returned. Then all bets are off.
Oh,
I
but
see
well,
this continuing.
but again, if all bets are off, I mean, it's if the war resumes under Trump's watch, then already that's a disaster for Trump. It's a failure on Trump's part. You know,
Yeah, he's
Trump,
putting a lot of faith into the Israelis, isn't he?
right? I mean, so at the moment, Trump is enjoying a certain popularity because the ceasefire is associated with him, and he's basking in this in a glory as having achieved that. If the shooting starts again and we see all the horrific scenes once again, then it's on him. Then it's going to be, this is your war. Up until now, that was Biden's war. And then we had the ceasefire. This is Trump ceasefire. Is sort of enjoying this, this, whether it's warranted or unwarranted, good feeling that'll go, and then it's going to be on Trump.
But George, don't you understand how that goes full
Right.
circle? It goes first full circle because we gave you, we want you to live in prosperity and safety. Here's the option. The
But
Egyptians won't let us. Well, we'll work with the Egyptians.
right, but
Jordan,
but
yeah.
it's one thing to say this. It's one thing to say these things. I mean, just to think in those terms, I mean, if you just try to imagine what's involved in driving 2 million people out of a country, what's involved and going to war with Egypt, I mean, this is just mind boggling. And it's hard to believe. I mean, there are fanatics who will go along with this, whether there's various, maybe, the UN representative, Elise Stefani,
Oh
Mike
yeah.
Huckabee. That's not who Trump is. Trump has no ideological commitment here. That's why I think you're going to have this. This is going to be on you. For what reason? This isn't even your issue. We know what your issues are. This isn't your issue, and this is, and you're going to be associated with, which then it would be genocide. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I
Yeah,
mean,
but George,
there's not going to be any argument there. That's genocide.
yeah, but George, it will be sold as he's a great humanitarian. He let the people go. He was like the Pharaoh. He let the people go. Don't underestimate these people.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Don't.
I don't know. I think Sean Hannity might say that, but I don't know whether how much sway Sean Hannity will have on world opinion. So
Well, I
I
mean,
don't. I mean, we can argue about this forever. I have my doubts whether
absolutely.
this yes.
But I think we brought up all of the salient points here. I mean, this is a knot that is getting tighter, not looser. Okay. And Trump should be more careful because I think George and I will at least agree on this
Right.
point is that he's writing his own legacy 2 weeks into his administration.
Right.
That's pretty big. And there will be no compensation, Greenland and Panama.
Yeah, no, no, no,
There won't be
no,
compensation. It
no,
won't
no,
be.
no, 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 no. That'll be his. That'll be on him. And then this is what you're going to be remembered for. And again, this isn't even your issue. So you'll be associated with this genocide in Gaza. And it's not even your issue. Everyone will forget about all of the things that you care about. That no one's going to do that. They're going to be talking about this. So it doesn't make a great deal of sense for him to get immersed in this. That's why
And George,
his initial response with Steve Witkoff, who seemed quite a pragmatic, that seemed in keeping with the kind of character that Trump is, which is, hey, I'm a problem solver, I bang heads together. I'm not an ideological fanatic who's going to get tarred with the genocide label. I mean that's not that isn't Trump. It's the first version is more Trump.
we have to also keep in mind what George already alluded to it, how this will divide Israeli society as well. I mean,
Right.
it will be very, very divisive also. Um, uh, you couldn't come up with a more disastrous scenario, and one thing that makes it thinkable, plausible, is that you have such weak states like Jordan and Egypt. Okay, they are so very weak. They have been made weak, and then crunch times comes and say, well, our largesse, we want something in return. Okay, and that's a big part of the calculus. The way
Well,
Trump looks at it.
I think that's true. But as I say, Saudi Arabia has good relations with Egypt. I think if the worst comes to the worst, and Trump says that's it, I'm cutting you off,
Yeah,
not
I
much
mean, I've
anymore.
heard.
Saudi Arabia, I think, would step in. I mean, they have a lot of money in the
Is it
bank,
true that
and
Trump's gonna make his first visit again to Saudi Arabia?
there was talk about that. I don't think that's been finalized yet. Yeah, yeah. But
Everybody, there used to be a tradition. I don't know who stopped doing it. I guess it was Trump. But the first foreign emissaries the president would meet was the Canadian and Mexican ambassadors. Remember, George? That was
right, right, right,
that was the norm.
right,
Okay, the
right,
president would never leave the country until he had met the ambassadors or the head of state of the America's immediate neighbors. All that is gone. If he does go to Saudi Arabia, you're going to have a new globe. Remember that?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that's right. But again, keep in mind at the time the Saudis had hopes for Trump. They thought that again Trump would come to with would have a fresh approach to the Middle East, and so they had some hopes for him. And to be fair, he did, unlike Biden, he did at least come up with a plan. I mean, I don't think it was much of a plan, but there was a plan, whether it was the Abraham Accords, but there was also an Israeli-Palestinian plan. I mean, it was phase one was this an economic plan, and then phase two would be a political plan. Again, it's not much, but it's actually it's more than Obama did. It's more than Biden did. I mean, at least it was some sort of a peace plan. So again, you could see he was fairly pragmatic during his first term.
Yeah, it's just that again, I think that, again, I can't disagree with you, but being pragmatic, he would say this is the best solution.
Right.
Look, everybody else has tried everything, it hasn't worked. That's how he looks at it. I think that's how he looks at this. Okay, George has given the implications of thinking that way, which be very horrific. It would be very destabilizing for everyone concerned, including the Israelis on top of it. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to hear a whole lot more about this because
Right.
Bibi Netanyahu is in Washington meeting. I guess he's going to be in the White House on Tuesday. And so, depending on the time, maybe that'll be part of his live stream.
Exactly. That's it. Absolutely. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. But before that, don't forget, Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, we do our joint live stream. So, crack of dawn on the East Coast, or at least crack of dawn on the West Coast of the United States. Please join us. Come with comments, criticism, suggestions, and of course, above all, questions. We really love answering your questions. The tougher and the more intriguing, the better. And the issue of the dogs is getting to be very, very vexed because, as Peter will tell you, they're now turning on each other with anger because there's so little in the tip jar to go around. And when there's so little in tip jar, they take out their anger on one another. So if you have a few bob in your pocket, anything behind the sofa cushion, whatever, they get it all out into the tip jar, and then maybe you can keep the dogs apart. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve the technology, and above all, we're going to have a more cheerful canine a year in 2025. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.